Now, Brian, what more do we know about these officials implicated in these atrocities?
Well, one is the governor of the region or state where the atrocities took place. He's a very close ally of the president in that region, and he's Joseph Monytuil. And the other one, Reat, is an assistant deputy director of operations for the South Sudanese army, and he was present allegedly or masterminded or was in control when the atrocities that are outlined in the report were being committed.
Brian, given their high-ranking officials, what are the prospects of them being, taken to court or held accountable?
Well, there have been processes set in place the president commissioned a report to look into the atrocities. However, in South Sudan, when a commission like that is set in place, the prospects that it will come to light have always been very dim. Previous experience shows that these reports are never made public, and this particular one has not been made public. And then it dims the prospects of holding these people accountable, and they are free to do what they are doing, and they've been doing what they're doing without any consequences. So the prospects are dim.
What do we know of the status of the victims of these atrocities, and how can they get justice?
Well, the victims, the dead, 4 of them have been killed. However, what we know and reading from the UN reports is that the relatives of the victims are facing persecution and are afraid and are silent, and they are at risk of being arrested if they speak out about it. Some have gone into hiding.
Brian, I am curious. We just had this report where South Sudan has sent forces to quell crisis and expel M23 rebels in DRC. Do they really? It's a very controversial thing when you have atrocities being committed right in South Sudan, and now we have forces coming out of that country to quell another crisis in Central Africa.
Well, yes, it might sound like a paradox, but South Sudan as a nation has a responsibility to ensuring global peace and security. And there are numerous studies out there that show that when countries like South Sudan participate in peacekeeping operations, there is a rub-off effect that is positive. First, it will incentivize the adoption of good practices for the military, things like respect for human rights and civilian authority. So there's some dividends there. Of course, the issue here is, of course, South Sudan is burning, and instead of using these troops to quell the fire at home, they're being sent abroad, and that raises a lot of questions in the minds of people. But I guess I think if you look at the larger picture, in my opinion, there is a positive thing that may accrue out of this.
So, Brian, has President Salva Kiir reacted to this report so far, or any of the officials in South Sudan, as far as you know?
Typically, the response of the government to reports that expose wrongdoing within the government is to thrash the report, downplay its findings, and or keep silent. So far, we haven't heard any response to the report. There might be one forthcoming in the next few days, but I expect that the response will not be any different from what we've experienced or seen earlier.